Revenge films.
My name is Sally. I live together with my husband Sean and our son Kyle. I've always had poor eyesight since I was an elementary school student, and I couldn't see anything without my glasses. I am working part-time at an optical store where I had my eyeglasses made. My husband also had poor eyesight like me, so we were very worried that our son might inherit our poor eyesight. But thankfully, our son has no problems with his eyesight. Kyle used to be a mommy's boy, but ever since he started high school, he became rebellious like most teenagers become. So even when we're living under the same roof, he doesn't talk to me as much as he used to. He's part of the basketball club since he was in elementary school, and now that he's studying in a prestigious high school, he goes on a series of basketball tours with his team. My husband has a pretty low salary, so I work part-time to pay for our son's tuition fees and extracurricular club activities. But our son always looked at me with a cold eye stare. I understand that he's at a rebellious stage in his life, and I knew that this would eventually come. I have no choice but to get through this period, so I decided to just not speak to him and instead watch over him as a mother. As for my husband, he had a difficult time getting promoted from his job, which he's been doing for a long time now. Because of that, he came home irritated every day. It became a routine of his to vent his anger every time he came home from work. Despite being displeased by my husband's behavior, he becomes uncontrollable when I make him feel angry, so I decided to ignore everything he said. Then one day my husband came home with a wild rage in his eyes. Welcome home.
That mistake wasn't all mine. But why am I the only one who lost their trust?
Apparently, Sean made a huge mistake at work, and after being scolded by his supervisor, he was removed from the task that was assigned to him. That is why his eyes were filled with rage. Since then, he kept on drinking alcohol every day, and even started abusing me physically. Welcome back home. Did you go out for drinks with your colleagues?
There's no way I get invited to have drinks with my colleagues. Are you being sarcastic?
Sean, stop it! Ah!
Don't shout!
Please, stop it.
I'm going to bed now.
One day, when I was experiencing physical abuse, my mother-in-law suggested that we go on a family trip together. We agreed to her suggestion, and thus it was decided. My husband is at the behest of my mother-in-law, so he tried forcing our unwilling son to go with us on the trip. My mother-in-law has always had a sarcastic personality, and honestly, I didn't like her, so I frankly didn't want to go on the trip. However, there is no way I would say no to them. The dreaded day of the family trip came. During lunchtime on the day of the trip, we decided to stop at a service station on the expressway on our way to the hotel. I've been looking forward to this family trip, but my grandson won't talk at all, and my daughter-in-law looks rather depressed. What's wrong with the two of you?
I'm sorry, Mom. Hey, you two! Entertain my mother!
I'm sorry.
Anyway, why don't we stop at the next service area? I heard that there's a tasty local delicacy.
Sounds good. Let's do that. When we arrived at the service area, Kyle, who hasn't spoken a single word yet, wandered around the souvenir section. While my husband and my mother-in-law were eating, I decided to go to the restroom, so I left my seat and headed to the restroom. The moment I stood up and started walking, I tripped over my mother-in-law's foot, and shocked by the sudden occurrence, I was caught off balance and dropped my eyeglasses on the floor. Then, a moment later, I heard an unwelcome crashing sound. Sean's next words made me realize that he stomped on my eyeglasses.
I can't go on a trip together with someone who can't entertain my mother. So let's go, Mom.
Wait, what? Where are you going? Wait a minute, where's my bag? Ignoring me, my husband and my mother-in-law left without my eyeglasses. Using the wall as my guide, I was finally able to arrive outside, but since I couldn't see, I couldn't find our car. Oh no, what should I do? I can't go back to the car. Losing my bag and without having my phone or wallet with me, on top of that, I can't see. At a loss of what to do, I tried to ask for help from the people around me. They helped me look for the car, but the search was to no avail, and they couldn't find the car either. That's when I realized that they truly left me behind. Since my wallet was not with me, I couldn't even ride a taxi, so I was stuck at the service area. Then, after a while, the policeman saw me and reached out. When I told them what had happened, they immediately took me to the police station, as if they were searching for me. Then, one of the police officers called my husband, so Sean came rushing into the police station near the service area where I was.
I was worried sick because I couldn't find you!
Why in the world did you leave her at the service area? Just because you couldn't find her? Were you really looking for your wife?
Of course, officer!
While Sean was intensifying his tone of voice, Kyle, who hadn't said a word since we left the house, started talking.
My father and grandmother broke my mother's eyeglasses and left her at the service area on purpose. I recorded their conversation.
Kyle? When I listened to the recording that Kyle saved on his phone, I heard my husband and my mother-in-law's conversation about intentionally planning to leave me at the service area. When Kyle went back to the car with his earphones on, and he was dozed off while listening to music, it was too late when he realized that I wasn't in the car. Then, when he realized what was happening, he started recording the conversation of his father and grandmother. He told Sean that he wanted to go to the restroom and asked that they make a quick stop at this next service area. When they arrived there, Kyle secretly contacted the police. I would like to ask you some questions about what happened. To take away the bag and eyeglasses and leave her there. How evil of you to do that! You don't seem to realize the scale of what you did. This won't be treated as just a silly prank. As a result, my husband was strictly admonished by the police for hours, and we ended up canceling the family trip. When we arrived home, Kyle came to my room. I was surprised because he didn't really come to my room.
Mom, the police mentioned that they'll sue Dad for domestic violence, right? You should get a divorce as soon as possible.
Kyle saw me continuously enduring the physical abuse that I was getting from Sean. Kyle later told me that he was always looking for opportunities to create a chance to talk to the police about the situation. Being able to talk to the police about the physical abuse I was getting from my husband, I learned that I'd demand alimony from Sean. Because of that, I felt like I could be forward-looking regarding that. Just like that, thanks to my son, I was able to make the first step. Even though my son was in a rebellious stage of his life, and even though he didn't listen to what I said, he was worried about me deep inside. Because of that, when it was time to initiate a discussion with my husband about the divorce, Kyle accompanied me to protect me, and also to help me convince Sean to get a divorce. There is something that I would like to discuss with you.
What? You two both have something to discuss with me?
Let's get a divorce.
What? A divorce? You're just kidding, right? Mom is serious. You physically abused her a lot. Did you seriously think that it wouldn't come down to this? Since when did you learn to talk back to your father?
I can't live with you anymore. I will leave this house.
I will go with Mom.
Kyle.
You've got to be kidding me. Stop playing around. There's no way I would agree to a divorce.
Sean, please stop physically abusing me.
You should stop, Dad. Mom, let's go. There's no need for us to deal with him anymore. Hey, wait a second! You two! Don't think you'll be forgiven for doing this!
My husband tried to disagree with the divorce until the end, but when I hired a lawyer and asked for alimony from Sean, he quietly down and gave in, and he finally agreed to the divorce. Having to live in my parents' house on short notice, Kyle and I moved into a new apartment after the divorce was settled. We will be living here in our new apartment starting today. I'm sorry that all I can afford is a small apartment. Thank you for choosing to live with me, Kyle. When I said that, my son didn't say anything back. Instead, he handed me an amulet for protection that he bought from the souvenir store. This is...
I'm grateful that you always worked hard for me. Thank you.
Of course, that's a given, Kyle. I'm your mother, after all. I will do anything for my precious son. When we start living in a small apartment with just the two of us, my son started speaking more and more. We lived and laughed in harmony like we used to. As for my ex-husband, he was sued for domestic violence, and he ended up having to pay alimony all at once. As a result, he lost his family and property. It was usual for him to vent his anger on me and physically abuse me, so he had nowhere to vent his anger. He ended up injuring someone and got arrested. As a result, he got fired from his job. So now all he can do is depend on his mother, who is living on her pension. Both of them ended up living a very destitute life.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.